everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the GC360 podcast, filmed right here in downtown Garden City. I'm your host, Catherine O'Connell. Today, I'm joined by an amazing entrepreneur. Her name is Diana Lillo. She is the co-founder of the MOS Wellness Workplace.
How are you?
Good,
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. I'm so excited to hear about you and your business. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what your business is?
Absolutely. So MOS Wellness Workspace is a flexible office and co-working space. It's intended for wellness professionals, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, remote workers. And the idea behind it is that, as an entrepreneur, we're always running around, we're always doing a million things, trying to fit everything in, managing families, so on and so forth. And usually we're trying to achieve like a work-life balance, but at MOS, we like to try to foster a work-life wellness balance.
Wow.
So we have like wellness professionals as our primary members or our full-time members. And the idea is that, if you want to get some work done, you can get some really focused productivity in. But then also, you want to fit in a massage or IV therapy or a stretch or a therapy session with somebody, like you can totally just kind of fit that naturally into your day.
Wow, that is really a lot to offer in one place.
Thank you.
So can you tell us a little bit about your professional background?
Sure. So actually, I started my first business, I was 21, doing healthcare interiors.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Thank you. And later I started, actually with my husband, he's my business partner. We own Inspire Design, and we're a full service creative studio offering interiors, graphics, signage, and artwork for corporate and healthcare spaces.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So what do you feel like your business philosophy is, and how does it kind of drive your work with creating these things?
That's great. So all the things that we've learned throughout the years, from a design aspect, have really been funneled into like the grassroots of MOS, right? So we always do biophilic design practices when we're designing spaces, and that's really how people connect to nature. So people, if I ask anybody to close their eyes and, picture their happy place, they're going to find themselves somewhere outdoors.
Yeah,
and there's a reason for that, right? Like nature lowers our stress levels, it increases productivity. In a space that's inspired with wellness and with nature. We also have reduced absenteeism amongst employees. Creating positive spaces for occupants is beneficial for both the occupants, for the employees, for the patients, for the clients, whatever it is. So we took all of that and fostered it directly into MOS's environment.
That is so cool.
Thank you.
So how did you get started in design?
So I actually, I went to school for graphic design initially, but started at Winthrop Hospital in facilities doing their interiors.
Okay.
And I had a mentor there who really showed me a lot of the ropes. It was super hands-on. And really from there, it was kind of pinpointing different solutions that I felt like there were inefficiencies or things that were lacking. And a lot of our offering and our solutions from a design aspect are really tailored from those experiences.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Have you ever felt like you worked in an office environment that you felt it was difficult for you to be productive in? Or what really inspired you to realize there was a need for a more productive and more neutral workplace?
Sure. So I think a lot of people, just from an interior design aspect, offices have made so many changes over the years. The way people work has changed. The way people approach work, the way people like to work, everybody works differently, and usually for example, a cubicle, a sea of cubicles in a space is really not inspiring for many people, and they feel very closed in and like they're in a box. And I think the pandemic actually showed a lot of people I'm more productive. I'm actually more productive from my couch or whatever the case is, So bringing people back to the workplace, back to the offices, our approach has been this residential approach, right? Where you have a residential or hospitality type interior, and you're incorporating it into the commercial spaces. And by doing that, you're creating spaces where people can work differently. Maybe they are really, want to sit at a desk for an hour, but then they want to be on a sofa or a lounge. You're giving people these flexible seating options, and it just creates more productivity ultimately.
Yeah,
so
I definitely think that would be interesting for everybody to try out, whatever their job is. Yes. I know sometimes I'm sitting at a desk and I'm like, oh, I need to stand up for a little while.
Yes.
And I'm sure it would create a lot more productivity for somebody to get up, have a different change of scenery, have a different type of view from what they're used to doing. So that's really amazing.
Thank you.
So are you a big fan of wellness?
Yes.
What can you tell our viewers about wellness, particularly in the workplace?
Sure. So part of the reason why MOS was developed and dreamt up was because as a young entrepreneur, I didn't have an office, right? So I was working at a Starbucks and Panera's and all the things, right? I didn't have resources. I didn't have community. I didn't have all these things. And ultimately, that affected my wellness. You know, it was like nothing I ever prioritized in terms of like growing a business. It was not at the forefront of my mind. It was like, I have to just build this. I had an idea. This was back with the design business more, but like I was so focused on just building, going. And it really wasn't until I actually had my daughter where I had to slow down a bit. It was forced to slow down. I had postpartum really badly. I didn't realize how much, like, just even from a mindset, like how stuck I was in like identifying with being a business owner or whatever the case was, you know? So it was tricky, and it took me a long time to like rebuild and like build it all back. But if I can help people just by fostering this sort of community and creating businesses the correct way with support and the resources and in a space that makes you feel good, I feel like it's just like good all around, you know?
It's night and day, yeah. I know a lot of people definitely can struggle with taking care of their mental health and their wellness. I feel like a lot of people are kind of, oh, sweep that under the carpet. Don't take care of that. You're fine. Just keep working.
Yes.
But after a while, it definitely does wear you down. So it's different to have a place in the community where people are able to do that. So what effects do you really think a toxic kind of workplace can have on somebody? Besides,
so a lot of times,
mental
a lot of times it's culture, right? Like a lot of times being in an office or a workplace where the culture is really, you know, like you said, like where they're just making you work 24/7, they expect you to be on 24/7. Corporate burnout is tremendous, you know, and it's so interesting because a lot of the people who are being attracted to MOS, they're all like, all right, I'm over that. I'm starting my own thing. I know my worth. I know my skill set. I know what I can do. And then I just need like those resources to actually pull it off the ground. But that corporate burnout is really what I see the most out of, like, you know, just kind of like dark, you know, hindering spaces. And that's really just comes down from management. If they're not investing in their teams and their team's health, it's going to be a trickle-down effect.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned a little bit about what kind of health options that MOS offers. What exactly would that entail?
Sure. So what MOS actually offers is really space, right? It's the space to grow your business. The wellness offerings that our different members offer are things like we have massage therapy, we have estheticians, we have an IV therapist, weight loss management. We have physical therapists right in the space. We have creative arts therapists. And it's actually been a lot of fun, like even from Inspire Design standpoint, my design firm, we hosted a team wellness day for our team there the other day. And it was awesome because we were able to use all the different practitioners. We figured out a schedule, everyone who was getting their IVs and who was, you know, getting their stretch and everything. And it was awesome. But like inspiring that, like if I'm going to do it, right, you got to talk the talk, you know, like you gotta implement these things, and the teams appreciate it, you know, like it's such a different approach to management that really just fosters a lot of things, like employee retention and just they're happy, you know, right? It's like
everybody
super
can
important.
do more work when
Exactly.
So say somebody becomes a member, how would they go about requesting getting some of these practitioners to work with them or offer some things for them?
So when you become a member, you're part of the member directory. So really you could search up anything you're looking for, and anybody who fits that profile will show up. But we also do monthly meetups where members can introduce themselves to one another. We invite people from the community in, anybody who's like interested in MOS or interested about the community. And we just have these really informal but like delightful meetups where everyone just kind of gets together, talks about different pain points in their business, offers support or resources or a story, right? That might be like, you know, oh, I actually went through this recently and this was a great thing that helped me out, you know? And it's just like, it's being in the same room with growth-minded individuals that gets people to the next step. Right? You are like what you consume, kind of, right? Like you are like who you're around. It's so So they all have a lot of access to one another that way.
Okay, so what exactly are the kind of people in this community that have started with MOS? Like, what kind of professions are they in? What kind of things do they do?
So we just opened up like the co-working leg that's more recent, but we have a CEO coach, we have accountants, we have there's like a plethora, like marketing, like there's so many different things. Trying to think of other ones off the top of my head, and I'm totally blanking. But really any type of solopreneur, entrepreneur with a small business is like the type of people that we're looking to attract from a co-working aspect. And then also remote workers. Like we have somebody right now who's just, in town staying with family for a month, and he needed a place to work. And we fit the bill, right?
Yeah, that sounds like a really flexible and great option for entrepreneurs in the community. I'm sure you've gone through a lot as an entrepreneur yourself. I'm sure you're able to offer up a lot of advice and assistance to new entrepreneurs. Like how would you say you're able to help out a new small business owner?
Sure. So it's actually like, I can't really explain it like without getting like a little choked up, but that has been the absolute best part. Is having these meetups where we have these like really honest conversations. And then I am able to connect people because I do have a lot of different resources. And I feel like I'm really great at like pinpointing like, okay, who you're going to fit well with, right? Like it's not everybody's a good fit for one another, but like being able to connect people mindfully, I think has been like one of the best things. And people leave there and they like, I got an email after the one that we had this morning where like people appreciate it and they don't even know that they needed this community. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's like one of those things where you're joining for a co-working space, you're joining for space so you can start to grow your business, but you're not thinking about the community aspect, and that's a result that just happens naturally.
Yeah, that sounds extremely awesome. It must have been really difficult for you to try to get a business going at 21. How did that feel for you?
Honestly, I feel like if you could do it when you're young, just go for it. And my mentality was like, what do I have to lose, right? Like I was young, I didn't have a family, I didn't have a house, I didn't have all the responsibilities yet, and it was like, now's the time. If this doesn't work, I'll grab a job, like it was like one of those things. So it wasn't scary for me young. Like I feel like I give people all the props for like leading corporate like in their 30s and 40s to start their own thing because I think
comfortable at that point. You're like, oh, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
And now you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to decide
exactly.
to do. It's kind of scary.
But it's so attainable. It's like technology is amazing. Like there's so many resources. It's like I feel like just having conversations with different people, finding the right mentor or whatever the case is, gets you there a lot faster maybe than I got there because I feel like I took my time.
I'm sure you did a great job. I mean, just speaking to you is like inspiring me to create something. You. And I'm like, I don't even have a business.
You'll do it.
I don't even have anything that I would consider. What do you think some of the most pressing challenges are for these small business owners?
And when we talk to people, I feel like marketing is always like something that everyone struggles with, right? Like it's either putting yourself out there on the social platform or not having the time or not even knowing or understanding if there is a return on investment, like you're already spread so thin. So I feel like marketing is a huge one. Accounting, also just even like banking and funding if they have an idea or they're looking for startup capital. Like I feel like these are a lot of the challenges that people have that I'm hearing often. And automations, systems and automations. That's probably the hugest.
I mean, I think marketing is very understandable because it seems like a lot of businesses have really incredible marketing nowadays on social media and TikTok. I personally checked out your Instagram and I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
I think you guys are very visually eye-catching. And I personally want to go and take a tour of MOS.
Anytime.
So what do you think was the inspiration behind MOS?
So because our design team, curated this entire, brand from the ground up, conceptually, the business idea, I always wanted to call it the Work Well. That was like what I had always envisioned. But it was taken, so that was kind of out the window. But when we were branding it, it was really like during the pandemic, and the thought behind it was kind of twofold. And we always like to put a lot of duality in our brandings, but MOS itself, right, grows in the darkest of places, but it flourishes in the darkest of places, right? So it's kind of deep.
That's very deep.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you. And starting through a pandemic, was a really dark time for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
so many people thought differently about their lives, how they're going to balance their lives, what they really wanted from their lives. I know I did that. I did so much reflection during that time. And you kind of like toss out like the things like, well, I'm not doing that after this or whatever the case is, right? So and then all these businesses start as a you know, kind of like a result of the pandemic. So MOS flourishes out of the darkest spaces, right? And we will flourish, right?
That is beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, a lot of people that I feel like I interview, a lot of them really did start their business through the pandemic. And I think it really did help a lot of people to kind of rise up and realize, like, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to pivot. It seems like a lot of business owners had to do that because, you know, they didn't have the income coming in or they didn't have the revenue that they expected. So they really kind of had to pivot and figure something else out. So this sounds like an incredible way to pivot and see how you can help other people.
Right. You know, one other thing I'd like to add to that is in terms of like opening something over the pandemic, it was very social. Everybody was front and center on their screens because that's where we all were, right? Everyone was there. But for these companies that did open, in order for them to scale to the next level, like they do need some physical representation. They do need to be in the field. They do need to be talking to people in order to grow their businesses further. So I really feel like it was actually perfect timing for MOS. Like while the idea was born years ago, I think everything happens when it's supposed to. I think it was supposed to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what exactly are the kind of memberships that you guys offer?
So we do full-time office memberships, which right now are accounted for, part-time office memberships. So if you want to have a private office to meet with your clients or your patients, you can book out different office layouts. We also have co-working memberships. So drop-in communal workstations. You get to be part of the member directory. You have access to the space at any time. And then you can book into different resources. So it's kind of flexible a la carte that way. So those are kind of like our base memberships. And then we also, if you're not ready to be a member, we do drop-in requests. So you can request any of our different, like our lounges or our podcast room. You can request what you need for the day, and we can make that happen as well.
Yeah, I thought that was particularly interesting. You know, I could go ahead and practice out some podcasting on my own time.
Right.
So that's really cool.
Awesome.
So what would you like our viewers to know particularly about MOS?
So I think like as I was building out the design concept and all the different plans, right? I was like, this is how they're going to use the space, you know? And what I really found is like everybody wants to come there and everyone's starting from a different spot. So like we like to be as accommodating as possible. We do have our plans, but if you need something that's a little bit more custom or customized to your needs, like, you know, we're flexible because we want to see everybody grow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Grow just like MOS.
Yes. So actually that's our tagline. It's the groundwork to support your growth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very well thought out.
Thank
Very
you.
Clever. So how would your viewers contact you to set up a tour?
Sure. So you can go on our website at www.moswellnessworkspace.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at MOS_workwell.
Oh,
yeah.
Gonna have to go check it out.
All the links are all there. So.
Yeah. What do you think has been the most rewarding thing for you to start this second business?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think part of it is like so many people have the ideas along the way. And I think when things aren't the right time for you, they're not the right time on purpose. And I think when you're in it, it's so hard to see like, oh, I want this so bad. Why isn't this happening? Or I'm working towards this and it's not happening. It's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. And I think that like I have faith in that now. So I feel like that's been like the most rewarding thing is just knowing that like I'm a huge control freak. It's not about me. I don't have control over these things, you know, like it's just when it's meant to be, it's going to happen for you.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think sometimes people get a little bit lost or frustrated because it's not happening exactly when they want it to happen. So what kind of advice could you give a business or entrepreneur? What kind of ideas could you give them about how to push through that kind of self-doubt or their kind of confusion?
Yes. I will say that for all the hardest times in my life, what followed right thereafter when I thought I was like at the worst was the most amount of growth. Every time. It was like the most pivotal points in my life were after a really big low.
Yeah, I definitely understand how you feel. I feel like
it's
certain
hard to see
parts
that
in my life, I'm like, we're like, oh, why is this happening? Like, I can't continue to move forward. What's going on? I can't see a way out of this.
Yes.
And just kind of feels like the walls are caving in.
Right.
And then after that, it's like the greatest thing arises. And you're like, this is way better than I could have ever possibly imagined.
Exactly. And so it'll be the hardest thing to be able to retain that while you're in the middle of some stuff. But like, just know that there's light after that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably really easy for you to see, being someone who's creative and creating their own businesses and designing things. What do you like the most about designing something?
I love, with renderings and things now, it's so easy to show the client what you're thinking from the beginning. But what I love is really knowing what it's going to look like and understanding it. And I love when the client finally understands it, right? Because I feel like there's always that little disconnect. Like I see it because I'm a creative and that's like where my head operates. But it's one of my most favorite parts is when they're like, oh, okay, I see what you did there. That's like rewarding for me.
Yeah, like you seem like you're very thoughtful in terms of the kinds of things that you might want to create. Like with MOS, you have this whole idea behind it. So do you kind of get to present those kinds of ideas with, the healthcare buildings and such that you help with design?
Definitely. It's interesting because all the projects kind of have a different start point when you're being pulled on. But our closest clients are the ones that trust us to be able to really provide that information and that guidance for them, like look at us as like a, spearheading this part of the industry for them.
Yeah. Is there like a favorite project that you had?
I don't know. I have a special place for all of them, but I will say MOS for now. Yeah, MOS has been like the most fruitful in terms of like being able to kind of exercise all of our skill sets and like our team skill sets. So.
Yeah. Do you guys have a lot of people working like in media?
So we're a small team of 6, and that's just from Inspired Design aspect. And then from MOS, it's really just like 2 of us. We have a community manager and then myself. So our team has done a lot of the support end in terms of building it up. But yeah, for the day-to-day, MOS, it's just 2 of us. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like you guys have all of it working well together.
Thank you.
I saw on the Instagram you guys have lots of introductions to your team. I think that's really helpful. I think you guys have really done a great job introducing yourself to the community and introducing yourself to the people of Garden City.
Thank you.
Would you say most of the people who have come to MOS are from Garden City?
I think a lot of them, not that they're from Garden City, but a lot of them have businesses in other locations and they're looking to expand into Garden City. Wow. So like a lot of the therapy groups, it's like a great place to start because you don't need to like do any upfront costs for like build outs and things like that, right? Like it's like plug and play. You just bring your laptop and you can start up. So like we have a doctor from Manhattan he's an audiologist and he just came out and he's able to see his patients here and just like branch into a whole nother sector, right? So like once these other small businesses have their operations and things set up, it's really like a natural extension to be able to expand to another space. But we just make it super simple and give them all the facilities and the resources to be able to do that. So,
wow, that's really supportive. Do you see yourself ever opening another business?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm like a serial entrepreneur, a creative entrepreneur. Like this is definitely like
excitement,
it
right?
It does. And I think what's actually great about just like with MOS, it's like I'm having these conversations all the time and I'm excited for other people's businesses. And if I feel like it can help them in any way to grow, like that does satisfy me in a different way. It probably keeps me more balanced as opposed to just opening up businesses.
But like, is there a certain particular thing that you would be interested in starting or?
No, I would like to open another MOS location.
Oh, okay.
So I'd like to see this grow and get off the ground.
Yeah, for sure.
Before I delve into the next thing. Yeah.
And I think you mentioned earlier, how long have you guys been open for?
So the first level was open for a year. It'll be a year at the end of this month. And then we just expanded to another floor, which is great because it's right off the ground level and it's, it gives us a lot more visibility.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what would you say the hours are?
So as a co-working member, it's Monday through Friday, 9 to 6.
Okay.
And for part-time, you can always book an office or something like that and gain access to space outside of those hours. But typical hours are 6 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers at home about you, about MOS?
I would love for anybody who's curious I would encourage you to come check out the space. Doesn't matter where you are in your business. Like we totally love having the conversations. So
Well, we've loved having you here.
Thank
I've
you.
loved hearing what you had to say, and I think
you.
it's been very inspiring for me.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being a guest here.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the GC360 podcast. I'm Catherine O'Connell, and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye. Thank you.